Tonight, the modern world slips away like the last light behind a distant horizon. You are not simply hearing a story. You are stepping into ancient Rome on the eve of its most beloved festival. Before you, the city glows beneath a winter sunset. Oil lamps flicker in narrow streets. The scent of fresh bread, pine branches, and beeswax candles drifts through the cooling air. Tomorrow, Saturnalia begins. But tonight, Rome waits. Before we enter the city, allow yourself a slow breath. Imagine the evening air settling gently around you, cool against your skin, soft and still. As you exhale, let the weight of the day leave your shoulders. The noise, the schedules, the unfinished thoughts. They can remain behind. Ahead of you, warm lights appear across the rooftops of Rome. Families are preparing for tomorrow's celebration. Merchants are closing their stalls. The city is slowing its pace. And so are you. A stone road stretches down the hillside before you. Far below, Rome glows gold beneath the fading sky. You begin walking toward the city, toward the markets, toward the lamps, toward the quiet anticipation that fills every street. The only sounds now are distant fountains, soft footsteps on stone, and the gentle evening breeze moving between rooftops. Let them guide you into a deeper and deeper sense of calm. The stone road winds gently down the hillside. Below you, Rome glows beneath the last light of the day. For a moment, you pause. The city seems endless. Terracotta rooftops spread across the landscape like waves frozen in clay. Thin ribbons of smoke rise from hundreds of household fires. Somewhere in the distance, sunlight catches the columns of a temple, turning pale stone into gold. The air carries the scent of wood smoke, olive oil, fresh bread, and something green and fragrant that you cannot quite place. Tomorrow, Saturnalia begins. Yet tonight feels wonderfully calm. No crowds are cheering. No musicians are performing. The celebration still waits beyond the horizon of morning. Tonight belongs to preparation. You continue down the road. Your sandals crunch softly against loose gravel. A cool winter breeze moves through the folds of your cloak. Ahead, two children hurry past. Each carries an armful of greenery gathered from beyond the city walls. Pine branches, laurel leaves, fresh ivy. The scent follows them as they disappear around a corner. Many Roman homes will be decorated for Saturnalia. Throughout the city, families are gathering greenery much like this. Some traditions change surprisingly little over time. Even separated by thousands of years, people still brighten the darkest season with light, color, and signs of life. The road narrows. Stone walls rise on either side. Small windows overlook the street. A woman shakes out a wool blanket from an upper floor. A man carries a bundle of firewood toward his doorway. An old dog lifts its head from a patch of sunlight before settling back down again. Everything feels ordinary, comfortably ordinary. The sort of evening that has happened countless times before. Soon another sound reaches you. Water. A faint splashing somewhere ahead. Then voices. Not loud voices. Not hurried voices. Just the distant murmur of people finishing the final tasks of the day. You follow the sound. The street bends. And suddenly, the market appears before you. A fountain stands near its center. Clear water spills endlessly into a stone basin polished smooth by generations of use. Around it, merchants are beginning to close their stalls. The busiest hours have passed. Now the atmosphere feels slower, more relaxed. A woman selects vegetables from a basket. A father carries a sleeping child on his shoulder. Two friends stop to exchange news before heading home. The fountain continues its gentle conversation with the stone. You move through the square at an unhurried pace. There is nowhere else you need to be. The scent of fresh bread captures your attention. It drifts through the air, warm and inviting. Following it, you arrive at a baker's stall. Round loaves are stacked neatly upon a wooden table. Their crusts glow golden in the evening light. One loaf has been marked with deep cuts, dividing it into sections. Nearly 2,000 years later, archaeologists would discover remarkably similar loaves preserved in the ashes of Pompeii. For a moment, history feels surprisingly close. The baker lifts a loaf and places it into the hands of a waiting customer. Steam escapes through a crack in the crust. The smell is rich and comforting. Warm grain, toasted flour, a hint of smoke from the ovens. Bread is one of the foundations of Roman life. Every day, enormous quantities of grain enter the city. Ships across the Mediterranean carrying wheat from distant provinces. Without that constant flow of grain, a city this large could never survive. You select a loaf for tomorrow. The baker wraps it in cloth and places it carefully in your basket. Even through the fabric, you can still feel its warmth. You continue deeper into the market. The sun hangs lower now. Long shadows stretch across the stones. Ahead, something catches the light. Rows of pale beeswax candles glow softly upon a wooden table. The candle seller is carefully arranging them. Some are tall and elegant, others are small enough to fit easily into a pocket. You pause beside the display. The scent of beeswax is faint, but pleasant. Tomorrow, many Romans will exchange candles as gifts. These candles are known as cerei. During Saturnalia, their flames bring warmth and light to homes throughout the city. The seller hands one to you. Its surface is smooth beneath your fingertips. Simple, practical, yet somehow special. You choose several. They join the bread in your basket. Nearby, a group of children gathers around another stall. Curiosity draws you closer. Small clay figures cover the tabletop. Tiny birds, dogs, horses, miniature people. Each one is slightly different from the next. These are sigillaria, small gifts exchanged during Saturnalia. Unlike precious jewelry or expensive treasures, these gifts are often modest. Their value comes not from cost, but from thoughtfulness. You pick up a small clay bird. The figure fits comfortably in your palm. Its wings have been carefully carved by hand. Perhaps tomorrow it will make someone smile. The merchant wraps it carefully and adds it to your basket. The market grows quieter. Across the square, another merchant is packing away baskets of dried fruit. Dates, figs, raisins, walnuts, almonds, foods that store well during winter. Foods that often appear during Roman celebrations. You purchase a handful of figs. Their sweetness will be a welcome addition tomorrow. The merchant thanks you as he begins covering the remaining baskets. Around the square, other merchants are doing the same. Canvas awnings are lowered, coins are counted, wooden shutters close, and one by one, the sounds of commerce fade into the approaching evening. Above the rooftops, the sky deepens from gold to blue. The first evening star appears. A lamp flickers to life in a nearby window. Then another and another. Soon, tiny points of golden light shine throughout the city. The transformation happens so gradually that it almost feels like magic. Day becoming evening, work becoming rest, preparation becoming anticipation. You pause beside the fountain one last time. The water still flows, unchanged, patient. The same sound that greeted Romans this morning. The same sound that will greet them tomorrow. You adjust the weight of your basket. Fresh bread, beeswax candles, a small clay gift, sweet figs, everything needed for the celebration ahead. The markets behind you settles into silence. The city before you glows with lamplight. And as the first stars spread across the winter sky above Rome, you begin the walk home. Tomorrow, Saturnalia will begin. But tonight, the city simply waits. Morning arrives quietly over Rome. The stars that watched over the city throughout the night have disappeared beyond the growing light. A pale winter sky stretches above the rooftops. The cool air carries the scent of damp stone and fresh bread. One by one, wooden shutters swing open. A baker removes warm loaves from a brick oven. A merchant arranges baskets outside his shop. Somewhere nearby, A rooster announces the new day. The city is awake once more. Today is Saturnalia. Yet the celebration has not fully begun. There is still time for one final tradition before families gather together. Across Rome, people step into the streets carrying empty, woven baskets. Fresh greenery still needs to be gathered. Doorways still need decorating. Homes still need those final touches before guests arrive. You join the steady flow of neighbors making their way through the streets. No one seems hurried. There is excitement, but also calm. The kind of calm that comes just before something long anticipated finally begins. Unlike many Roman religious festivals, Saturnalia belongs as much to ordinary families as it does to temples. Much of the celebration takes place at home. Homes are cleaned, tables are prepared, decorations are gathered. Small gifts are carefully hidden until the proper moment. You leave the busiest streets behind and follow a quieter path toward the edge of the city. Here, gardens become more common. Olive trees stand beside low stone walls. Small orchards rest beneath the gentle winter sun. The morning feels peaceful. Before long, you find yourself among people collecting branches for their homes. Bundles of evergreen pine lie neatly stacked beside the road. Others gather trailing ivy from old stone walls. Some carefully trim fragrant laurel branches that have long been associated with honor and celebration. Romans valued these plants far more than their beauty. During winter, when many trees had shed their leaves, evergreen branches remained vibrant and full of life. Their lasting color became a quiet reminder that nature continued even through the coldest season. For families celebrating Saturnalia, greenery brought warmth into the home before the first guests had even arrived. An elderly woman pauses beside an ivy vine. With practiced hands, she gently twists several long stems together. A young girl watches closely, learning each movement. Soon she begins weaving a garland of her own. The older woman smiles and nods with quiet approval. Skills like these are often passed from one generation to the next, not through written instructions, but through mornings spent together. You continue walking. Everywhere you look, baskets slowly begin to fill. Some contain fragrant pine branches with their fresh resin scent. Others overflow with glossy ivy leaves. One man proudly carries an entire bundle of laurel over his shoulder while laughing with a neighbor who insists he has gathered far more than anyone could possibly need. The mood feels light. Work and conversation blend together naturally. No one seems to mind taking their time. The preparations are almost as enjoyable as the celebration itself. By late morning, you return toward the neighborhoods of Rome. The streets have grown noticeably busier. Fresh greenery now appears above many doorways. Long strands of ivy frame wooden entrances. Laurel branches are fastened across lintels. Small wreaths hang inside open courtyards. No two homes are decorated exactly alike. Some families choose only a few simple branches. Others create elaborate displays that fill entire entrances with green. As sunlight reaches into the streets, the decorations seem almost alive. Their leaves catch the light. Soft shadows dance across pale plaster walls. The city is changing before your eyes. You pause beside a familiar public fountain. Water pours steadily from a carved stone face into the basin below. Yesterday evening, you stood beside another fountain as Rome settled into the night. Today, this one welcomes the beginning of a new day. Several neighbors rinse fresh branches before carrying them home. Children float loose ivy leaves across the surface of the water, watching them drift in gentle circles. Nearby, someone hums quietly while tying greenery into neat bundles. The sound mingles with flowing water and distant conversation. For a few peaceful moments, no one seems concerned with schedules. They are simply enjoying the morning together. The winter sun climbs a little higher. Its warmth remains gentle, never harsh. Shopkeepers continue opening their doors. Potters display rows of small clay oil lamps that will soon brighten homes throughout the evening. Carpenters arrange simple wooden toys and handcrafted gifts upon their tables. Soon they will find new homes. Every craft has its place in preparing for Saturnalia. By midday, your own basket is no longer empty. Inside rests fragrant pine, trailing ivy, fresh laurel, everything needed to prepare the home. You began the walk back through the city. The decorations above each doorway seem to greet you as you pass. Rome feels transformed already, not by grand monuments or triumphal processions, but by thousands of small acts of care carried out by ordinary people. The celebration is only beginning. Before long, laughter will fill these streets. Friends will gather around tables. Lamps will glow warmly in windows. But first, there is still one more place to prepare: home. You return home with your basket resting comfortably against your arm. The street behind you remains pleasantly busy. Neighbors disappear through open doorways carrying bundles of pine and trailing ivy. Children hurry ahead of their parents, eager to help decorate before guests begin to arrive. The city hums with quiet purpose. Yet, as you step across your own threshold, another atmosphere welcomes you. The sounds of the street soften almost immediately. The cool air gives way to the familiar warmth of home. For a moment, you simply stand still. It feels peaceful here, calm, the kind of quiet that exists before family gathers together. Sunlight pours through the opening above the atrium, reaching across the stone floor in wide golden beams. At the center of the room rests the impluvium, the shallow basin that catches rainwater whenever storms pass over the city. Today, its surface mirrors the bright winter sky. A few drifting leaves float quietly across the water. Tiny ripples shimmer whenever a breeze slips through the open roof. Roman homes were designed to welcome both light and fresh air. The atrium served as the heart of the household. Family members passed through it countless times each day. Visitors entered here. Business was often conducted here. Children played here. Stories were shared here. On ordinary days, it was the center of daily life. But today, it is becoming the center of celebration. You set your basket beside a wooden bench. Inside rests everything gathered during the morning: fragrant pine, fresh laurel, long strands of ivy still cool from the morning air. One by one, you lift them carefully from the basket. The scent of pine resin fills the room almost immediately. Clean, earthy, comforting. It mingles with the faint aroma of beeswax and olive oil that lingers from lamps extinguished only a few hours before. You begin with the entrance. A simple garland of ivy is draped above the doorway. Its glossy green leaves soften the pale plaster walls. Next come the pine branches. They are arranged upon shelves and tucked into clay jars, already standing throughout the house. Small changes, yet each one slowly transforms the room. Roman homes were rarely empty spaces. Walls often displayed colorful frescoes. Floors in wealthier houses might be covered with intricate mosaics depicting birds, sea creatures, or scenes from mythology. Even more modest homes often contained painted walls, woven baskets, carved wooden furniture, and shelves holding everyday pottery. Decoration was not reserved only for festivals. People surrounded themselves with objects they used and appreciated each day. Saturnalia simply added another layer of warmth. As sunlight shifts across the atrium, the greenery casts delicate shadows that dance gently upon the walls. The movement feels almost alive. You step into another room. Here, wooden chests stand neatly against one wall. A woven basket holds folded wool blankets ready for colder evenings. A simple table waits beneath a window. Nothing feels extravagant, yet everything has its purpose. Roman furniture was often surprisingly practical. Tables could be moved easily from room to room. Wooden stools served wherever extra seating was needed. Storage chests protected clothing, household linens, and treasured belongings. Comfort came not from excess, but from thoughtful arrangement. You pause beside a narrow shelf. A small clay bowl holds dried herbs collected throughout the year: rosemary, bay leaves, thyme. Nearby rests a polished bronze mirror reflecting a narrow beam of sunlight. The room feels lived in, not staged, not perfect, simply cared for. You return once more to the atrium. Fresh laurel now rests above several interior doorways. Among the Romans, laurel had long symbolized honor and achievement. Victorious generals wore laurel wreaths. Poets received them as marks of distinction. During festivals, the evergreen leaves also brought freshness and beauty into the home. Each family arranged them differently. There was no single pattern to follow. That was part of their charm. As you continue decorating, your attention is drawn toward a quiet corner of the house. Nestled within a small alcove stands the lararium, a household shrine. Almost every Roman family, regardless of wealth, maintained one. Some were beautifully painted, others were simple shelves tucked into the wall. Yet their purpose remained much the same. They honored the lares, the protective spirits believed to watch over the household and everyone within it. Meals, Journeys, births, celebrations, even the ordinary moments of daily life were thought to rest beneath their quiet protection. A small clay lamp rests before the shrine. Though daylight still fills the house, you gently trim the wick and add a little fresh olive oil. It will be ready when evening arrives. Beside the shrine, you place several fresh laurel leaves gathered only hours ago. No elaborate ceremony, simply a quiet gesture of respect. The house seems almost perfectly still. Only the gentle splash of water in the impluvium can be heard. Beyond the walls, Rome continues preparing for the festival. Inside, the home feels wonderfully calm, not empty, expectant. Every room seems to be waiting for the hours ahead. The lamps burn steadily now. Their warm glow reaches across painted walls and dances softly upon polished pottery. Outside, Rome continues settling into the evening. Laughter drifts faintly through neighboring homes. A distant door closes. Somewhere beyond the courtyard walls, someone calls a cheerful greeting before disappearing indoors. Saturnalia has begun. Yet inside the house, one peaceful task still remains. Before family and guests gather, the evening meal must be prepared. You make your way toward the kitchen. The scent reaches you before the room itself. Olive oil, fresh bread, a trace of wood smoke rising gently from the hearth. And beneath it all, the earthy fragrance of herbs waiting to be used. The room is modest, practical. Nothing here exists simply for decoration. Every bowl, knife, clay vessel, and woven basket has earned its place through daily use. Roman kitchens were often smaller than many people imagine. Cooking usually centered around a brick hearth fueled by charcoal or wood. Pots rested above the coals, while bread might be warmed beside the fire rather than baked there. The busiest work had already been completed earlier in the day. Now, only the final preparations remain. Near the hearth, baskets hold the provisions gathered throughout the morning. Figs, dates, walnuts, almonds, olives. A round loaf of bread rests beneath a linen cloth where it has remained warm since the returning from the market. Before long, these foods will be shared among family and guests. You lift the cloth ever so slightly. The fragrance of fresh bread rises into the warm air. Even after centuries, it remains one of the most familiar scents in human life. comforting, reliable, universal. Across the Roman world, bread forms the foundation of nearly every meal. Rich or poor, almost everyone eats it daily. Large public bakeries fills the streets of Rome, their ovens working long before sunrise. The city consumes astonishing quantities of grain each year. Much of it arrives by enormous merchant ships sailing from Egypt and North Africa. Without those steady shipments, feeding more than 1 million people would have been impossible. The empire moves grain, and grain, in turn, helps sustain the empire. For a moment, your fingertips brush gently across the crust. Its surface feels firm beneath your hand. The interior remains wonderfully soft. Soon it will occupy a place of honor upon the table. Nearby, a clay bowl holds olives glistening quietly in the lamplight. Romans consume olives in remarkable quantities. They are eaten on their own, added to meals, ground into flavorful pastes, and of course, pressed into olive oil. That oil illuminates homes after sunset. It flavors food, it nourishes the skin, it perfumes bathhouses. Few ingredients touch Roman life as completely as the olive. You place several into a serving bowl. Their dark surfaces catch tiny reflections of firelight. The task requires almost no effort, and perhaps that is part of its quiet satisfaction. There is something deeply calming about arranging simple things before they are needed, about watching an ordinary table slowly become ready to welcome others. Across the room, dried figs rest inside woven baskets. You lift one into your hand. Its skin is slightly wrinkled, its sweetness concentrated through careful drying. Figs have been cultivated around the Mediterranean for thousands of years. They travel well, store easily through winter, and provide welcome sweetness long after fresh fruit has disappeared from the trees. One by one, a handful joins the olives, then dates, then almonds. A few walnuts follow. Slowly, the table begins to fill. No single item appears extravagant. Yet together, they create a feeling of abundance. And abundance lies at the heart of Saturnalia. The festival honors Saturn, an ancient god closely connected with agriculture and the harvest. By mid-December, the fields have long been gathered. Granaries stand full. The uncertainty of the growing season has passed. For many Roman families, the food resting upon the table represents far more than a meal. It represents security, survival, and gratitude for another year carried safely into winter. The gifts have been arranged. The feast has been prepared. The lamps burn warmly throughout the house. For a little while, there is nothing left to organize, nothing left to carry, nothing left to decorate. The evening has reached that pleasant moment when work gives way to anticipation. You settle onto a wooden bench near the atrium. The basin beneath the open roof reflects a patch of night sky above. Several stars have appeared. Their faint light mingles with the glow of nearby lamps. The city beyond the walls remains awake. Traces of the festival can already be felt. A burst of laughter drifts from a neighboring home, then another. The sound travels easily through the evening air. People are gathering. Families are visiting. Friends are arriving. The city seems to be leaning toward celebration. You glance toward a small table near the wall. Upon it rests a set of dice. Simple objects, small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. Yet, during Saturnalia, they become especially important. Throughout much of the year, gambling is restricted in Roman society. The laws are not always enforced perfectly, but wagering money is generally discouraged. Saturnalia is different. For a few days, many of those restrictions are relaxed. Dice appear openly. Friendly games take place in homes throughout the city. Coins change hands, small wagers are made, and laughter often follows. You pick up one of the dice. Its corners have been softened by use. Romans create dice from a variety of materials: bone, ivory, wood, sometimes even stone. The shape feels familiar. Human beings have been rolling dice for thousands of years. The desire to test luck appears surprisingly ancient. You turn the die slowly between your fingers before setting it back upon the table. Nearby rests a small pouch containing game pieces. Many Romans enjoy board games as well. Some resemble strategy games. Others rely more heavily upon chance. An evening spent around a table with family and friends requires very little to become enjoyable, especially when a festival is about to begin. A fresh log settles within the hearth. Tiny sparks rise and vanish. The room glows amber and gold. Outside, another burst of laughter echoes faintly through the neighborhood. You imagine similar scenes unfolding all across Rome. Thousands of homes, thousands of hearths, thousands of conversations continuing late into the evening. Saturnalia possesses an atmosphere unlike any other festival on the Roman calendar. Part of that uniqueness comes from the way ordinary social customs temporarily soften. Many Romans view the celebration as a symbolic return to Saturn's golden age, a time when people were believed to have lived with greater equality. The reality of Roman society remains complex. Yet during Saturnalia, reminders of that legendary age appear everywhere. In some households, masters serve food to slaves. In others, formal expectations relax. People speak more freely. Jokes that might normally remain unspoken are allowed room to breathe. The temporary reversal does not erase social divisions, but it acknowledges them. And for a few days, Rome permits itself to imagine life arranged differently. A folded wool cap rests upon a shelf nearby. The pileus, the cap of freedom. Earlier it seemed like an ordinary piece of clothing, but tonight its symbolism feels clearer. Throughout the city, objects and customs quietly point back toward the same idea: freedom, generosity, good fortune, shared celebration. You rise and walk slowly through the house. The preparations completed earlier now seem transformed. The greenery no longer looks like just decoration. It feels like a promise. The wrapped gifts no longer seem unfinished. They feel ready. Every room is prepared. Every lamp contributes to the growing sense of anticipation. Near the doorway, a small bowl contains walnuts, a simple snack. Yet, even something as ordinary as a walnut can become part of a celebration. Festivals have always possessed a remarkable ability to elevate small things: a shared meal, a candle, a gift, a game of dice. Moments that might otherwise pass unnoticed suddenly become meaningful. The city outside continues to settle. The streets grow quieter. Footsteps become less frequent. Doors close. Families gather indoors. Above the atrium, the stars now shine more clearly. Winter has wrapped itself around Rome. Yet inside the house, warmth remains. The fire burns steadily. The lamps glow softly. Tomorrow will bring feasting, gift exchanges, games, visitors, stories, laughter. But tonight offers something quieter. A final, peaceful evening before the celebration begins. You return to the bench beside the atrium. The dice remain where you left them, waiting, much like the gifts and the feast, and much like the city itself. The night has taken over at last, and throughout Rome, beneath the same winter sky, countless households settle into that same feeling, a feeling that something joyful waits just beyond tomorrow's sunrise. Morning arrives without ceremony. The darkness simply begins to loosen its hold upon the house. The painted walls emerge little by little from the shadows. The last glow of the hearth has faded to a handful of quiet embers. No one rushes to stir the fire. Not yet. For a little while longer, the house belongs to silence. You remain where you are, in your bed, listening. A beam overhead gives the faintest creak as it cools from yesterday's warmth. Somewhere beyond the roof of the atrium, the first birds have already begun greeting the day. One answers another, and the sound drifts away again. The impluvium rests perfectly still beneath the growing light. Its surface reflects a pale winter sky. For a moment, it is difficult to tell where the water ends and the morning begins. The house seems content simply to awaken alongside the city. You make your way slowly across the cool mosaic floor. Each step echoes softly before disappearing into the open space above. The familiar rooms feel different this morning. Not because anything has changed, but because anticipation has quietly become celebration. You pause beneath the open roof. The air carries a cool freshness that arrives only just before sunrise gives way to morning. It brushes gently across your face. Not cold enough to send you back inside, only enough to remind you that winter has reached Rome. The first rays of sunlight touch the upper walls long before they reach the floor below. Stone catches the light patiently, little by little. Nothing hurries. A voice drifts over the neighboring rooftops. Saturnalia. The words seem almost sleepy, and another voice answers from somewhere farther away. Then another, and soon the greeting moves through the neighborhood as naturally as birds calling across the trees. No one appears to be announcing the festival. They are simply sharing the morning with one another. You smile without realizing it at first. There is something comforting about hearing the same greeting pass from one household to the next, as though the entire city has agreed to begin the day together. You step outside. The narrow street is still more quiet than busy. A woman opens her shutters, allowing the morning light into her home. And across the way, an older man pauses beside his doorway, stretching his back before beginning the day. Neither seems in any particular hurry. A cat slips silently along the base of a sunlit wall. It pauses to examine something only it can see, then continues on its mysterious journey through the neighborhood. Farther down the street comes the gentle tapping of someone repairing a wooden cart. Steady, unhurried, a craft begun before the city has fully awakened. Two children hurry past. They remember to slow down to a walk. One glances back toward the mother following behind. The other struggles to hide a smile. Even without hearing their conversation, it is easy to sense their excitement. Festival mornings have always belonged a little more to children. You continue walking with no particular destination. Today, that feels entirely appropriate. Saturnalia unfolds over several days. There is no single moment that must be reached before it disappears. The celebration waits patiently for everyone. As another street opens before you, more people begin appearing. Friends stop in the middle of the road to exchange greetings. A neighbor rests one hand upon another's shoulder while they talk. Someone laughs, not loudly, but just enough to send the sound drifting gently between the stone walls before fading again. For these few days, Rome grants itself permission to linger. And perhaps that is one of Saturnalia's greatest traditions. Not the feasts, not the gifts, not even the games, but the simple permission to let a day unfold at its own pace. Above, the winter sun continues its slow climb. Golden light reaches farther into the streets with every passing minute. The city grows brighter, warmer, more awake. And without anyone giving the order, Rome seems to breathe together. For just a little while, the great capital of an empire feels less like a city of nearly 1 million people and more like a neighborhood welcoming another peaceful morning. You find yourself following the slow current of people moving through the streets. No one points the way, yet little by little, the city seems to gather itself toward a single destination. As you pass beneath another archway, the streets widen. Buildings begin to open, and ahead the great public spaces of Rome come into view. Soon, towering above the surrounding forum, stands the Temple of Saturn. Even from a distance, its pale stone columns glow in the gentle winter sunlight. The temple has stood here for generations, long before emperors ruled Rome, long before many of the streets you have wandered this morning were even laid. This place was already considered one of the city's oldest and most honored sanctuaries. To the Romans, Saturn was a god of agriculture, but he also represented something deeper. They believed there had once been a distant golden age, a time when people lived without war, without hunger, without masters or servants. The earth provided freely. Saturnalia was more than a celebration. It was a brief remembrance of that forgotten age. For a few days each winter, Rome allowed itself to imagine what life might feel like if burdens were set aside. As you step closer, you notice that the gathering remains remarkably calm. There is conversation, but it is soft. Families stand together. Friends greet one another with quiet smiles. Children shift excitedly from foot to foot, trying very hard to be patient. The ceremony has not yet begun. Near the entrance, white-robed priests move with practiced familiarity. Every gesture seems shaped by centuries of repetition. The scent of burning incense drifts into the cool morning air. Its fragrant smoke rises slowly between the tall columns before disappearing into the pale winter sky. Inside the temple stands the ancient statue of Saturn. For most of the year, its feet remain wrapped with bands of wool. The bindings symbolize restraint, order, the ordinary responsibilities that govern everyday life. Today, however, something different happens. With careful hands, the priests loosen the woolen cords. The bindings are removed. It is a simple act, quiet enough that someone standing far away might not even notice. Yet everyone gathered understands its meaning. For the next several days, Saturn is symbolically free, and so, in a small way, are the people. The ritual marks the beginning of Rome's public celebration. Soon afterward, offerings are presented upon the altar. The smoke rises steadily into the brightening sky. Many lower their heads for a moment. Some whisper private prayers. Others simply stand in thoughtful silence. No grand speeches fill the square. No dramatic displays interrupt the peaceful rhythm of the morning. Around you, the forum feels unusually different. This is the political heart of Rome, the place where laws are debated, where business is conducted, where decisions affecting nearly 1 million people are made. Yet today, Those ordinary concerns seem content to wait. For a little while, commerce gives way to celebration. Obligation gives way to gratitude. The city allows itself to breathe. As the ceremony quietly comes to its end, people begin drifting away in small groups. Some make plans for the afternoon feast. Others wander toward nearby streets, already alive with conversation. Children can barely contain their excitement now. You remain for one last moment. The tall columns stand quietly against the winter sky. The incense has almost disappeared. Only its faint fragrance lingers in the cool air. Then, with no particular urgency, you turn and follow the others back into the streets of Rome, heading home. By the time you return to the house, the celebration is in full swing. Warm light spills from every oil lamp. Laughter reaches the doorway before you do. Someone inside notices your arrival and waves you in with an easy smile. The atrium feels different now than it did this morning. Family members fill every corner of the room. An uncle is finishing a story that seems to grow more entertaining each time he tells it. Your aunt shakes her head, laughing before he even reaches the ending. Children weave carefully between the adults, trying very hard not to spill anything they are carrying. Even the household servants seem more relaxed today. Saturnalia was famous for turning ordinary routines upside down. In many homes, enslaved members of the household were invited to join the festivities, and in some families, the master even served the meal himself, a symbolic reminder of the golden age of Saturn, when Romans imagined that no one ruled over another. Whether every family observed the custom exactly the same way is impossible to know. But tonight, everyone seems to share the same table. The meal has reached its happiest moment. Large wooden platters are passed from hand to hand. Fresh bread disappears almost as quickly as it arrives. Small bowls of olives, soft cheeses, roasted onions, lentils seasoned with herbs, and earthy mushrooms invite everyone to help themselves. Your uncle slices pork while another guest offers links of lightly spiced sausage to anyone whose plate has begun to empty. A platter of baked fish, scented with dill and olive oil, sits beside roasted root vegetables glazed with honey. Sweet figs, dates, walnuts, almonds, and crisp winter apples wait nearby for anyone with room to spare. No two Roman households will have served exactly the same meal. The wealthiest families displayed extravagant feasts with exotic delicacies brought from across the empire. Most Romans celebrated more simply, yet even modest homes often saved their finest foods for Saturnalia. After all, festivals were meant to be remembered. A young cousin reaches eagerly for another honey cake before anyone else notices. Your aunt pretends to be shocked. You've already had one. The room erupts in gentle laughter. She breaks the cake in half anyway. Some traditions, it seems, never change. Cups are raised. Wine, usually mixed with water in the Roman fashion, is poured generously for the adults. Children sip watered fruit drinks sweetened with honey. A toast is offered. Io Saturnalia. The words ripple around the room. Io Saturnalia. The greeting has echoed through Rome for centuries, carrying wishes for joy, good fortune, and a happy festival. As the meal comes to a comfortable close, a small woven basket is carried into the center of the room. Everyone seems to know what comes next. One by one, simple gifts are exchanged. Nothing extravagant, nothing expected, only thoughtful little treasures chosen with care. Your cousin unwraps a tiny, painted clay figure, one of the sigillaria that have become a favorite Saturnalia tradition. Another family member receives a smooth wax candle, or carius, its gentle flame symbolizing light returning after the longest nights of winter. Someone laughs with delight after opening a beautifully carved wooden spoon. Another admires a polished writing tablet tied neatly with a length of dyed wool. Small bottles of scented oil, carved combs, colorful ribbons, baskets of nuts, and winter fruit all find happy new owners. The Roman poet Martial even composed short verses to accompany many Saturnalia gifts, proving that people have enjoyed adding a thoughtful message to a present. No one compares the value of what they receive. The pleasure lies in the giving itself. Soon, someone reaches for a small leather pouch. The unmistakable sound of dice tumbling together draws several eager smiles. A wooden board is placed upon the table. Small glass and bone plane pieces are arranged across its surface. Earlier in the year, gambling with dice was often frowned upon. During Saturnalia, however, the rules relaxed. For a few festive days, luck itself became part of the celebration. Your uncle gives the dice a playful shake. The dice tumble across the table. The children lean forward, watching every bounce. Nearby, two older cousins become completely absorbed in a game of Ludus Latrunculorum, a Roman board game, and they carefully plan each move while pretending not to notice the good natured advice coming from everyone standing behind them. But no one seems especially concerned with winning. Half the enjoyment comes from playful arguments over the rules. The other half comes from simply sitting together. Hours seem to slip quietly by. Stories replace games. Games become conversations. Someone begins humming a familiar tune while clearing a few empty cups. Outside, the other homes are celebrating much the same way. Through the open courtyard, you catch the distant sound of another family greeting each other. A burst of laughter answers from somewhere farther down the street. The entire neighborhood feels connected, as though each household has become one small lamp contributing its light to the city. You find yourself thinking back over the day, the quiet morning streets, the temple of Saturn, the smell of incense drifting into the winter sky, the conversations with neighbors, the children hurrying through the forum. Now, as you look around this welcoming room, all those moments seem to belong together. Perhaps that was always the true gift of Saturnalia. Not simply the feasts, not the candles, not the games or the little clay figures, but the chance to set ordinary worries aside for a little while. To share food that had been prepared with care, to laugh without watching the hour, to celebrate the simple comfort of being together. The lamps burn a little lower now. Conversations soften. One by one, family members lean back with a quiet contentment that follows a day well spent. Beyond the open roof of the atrium, the first winter stars begin to appear above Rome. The city grows peaceful once again. And with a gentle glow of the lamps still surrounding you, Saturnalia quietly settles into the Roman night.